Today, I'll tell you about a case that happened in the United States. A 19-year-old woman was driving home late at night, and within the next half hour, she met with tragedy. This is a case with significant legal implications because afterward, the local area enacted a new law named after the victim. That is the Aniah Blanchard case. The main character of the story is Aniah Blanchard. On June 22, 2000, Aniah was born in Alabama. Alabama is located in the southeastern United States, bordering the Gulf of Mexico. The state's capital is Montgomery. About 140 kilometers northwest of Montgomery, there is a city called Homewood. Aniah grew up here. Homewood is an affluent small town with the quaint and peaceful Soho Square and the Edgewood Commercial District, surrounded by coffee shops, casual restaurants, and independent boutiques. Aniah's mother is named Angela, working as a nurse at a hospital in Birmingham. Aniah's biological father is named Elijah Blanchard. When Aniah was 4 years old, her parents divorced. 6 years later, her mother Angela married a man named Walt Harris. Walt is 6'5" tall, weighs 253 pounds, and is a professional UFC heavyweight fighter ranked in the top 10. Shortly after marrying Aniah's mother, Walt had children together. Aniah began taking on the role of big sister to her siblings. The family relationships were harmonious. Perhaps influenced by her stepfather, Aniah loved sports. In high school, she joined the softball team. After graduating, she attended Southern Union State Community College, majoring in early childhood education. The school is located in Auburn. Auburn is a city in eastern Alabama, belonging to Lee County. It is about 170 kilometers southeast of Homewood. This is a college town centered around Auburn University. Aniah's biological father, Elijah, once lived nearby and supported her. Aniah and her biological father, Elijah, had a close relationship. Therefore, Aniah rented a house in Auburn for convenience in studying and being near family. Aniah was a cheerful and compassionate girl. Seeing her would instantly heal one's mood. Aniah's stepfather, Walt, said that every time he competed, his family gave him enough motivation to fight, and Aniah was the core strength of the family. However, such a kind girl met with misfortune in Auburn. Now, let's turn back the clock to October 23rd, 2019. The fateful day, October 23rd, 2019. October 23rd, 2019 was a Wednesday. Aniah attended a funeral with her family about 300 kilometers from Auburn. Around 7 p.m., Aniah said she had to return to Auburn because she had work the next day. The drive from there back to Auburn takes about 4 hours. Aniah hugged her mother Angela goodbye and left alone. Aniah drove back to Auburn. On the way, she stopped in Birmingham to visit her stepfather, Walt. Walt was training for an upcoming fight. The two chatted briefly, Then Aniah continued her journey. Around 11 p.m., she arrived in Auburn safely. Aniah drove alone to her apartment. Aniah had watched many crime news stories. She knew nighttime could be very dangerous. Therefore, she had a habit. If she went out at night, she would inform her roommate Sarah in advance about where she was going and what time she would return. That night, at 11:09 p.m., Sarah saw that Aniah hadn't returned yet, so she messaged on Snapchat, "Are you coming back?" Aniah replied, "Soon." Sarah waited more than 20 minutes, but Aniah still hadn't come home. Sarah messaged again, "Are you out there alone?" Not long after, Aniah replied, "I'm smoking a cigar." Sarah felt something was off because she had never seen or heard of Aniah smoking cigars. Sarah asked further, "Who are you with?" Aniah replied, "With Eric." Sarah asked, "Who is that?" Aniah, "Just met." Sarah, "Where did you meet?" It was now 11:43 p.m. After that, there were no more replies from Aniah. Since Aniah and Sarah shared real-time locations, Sarah checked the positioning. It showed Aniah near a student apartment complex. Sarah thought Aniah might be out with friends, so she wasn't too worried and went back to her room to sleep. Alarm and search. The next morning, Sarah woke up and went to check Aniah's room. She was surprised to find Aniah still hadn't returned. Sarah wondered, where did Aniah go last night? Who is Eric? Sarah grew more worried as she thought about it. Aniah had discussed various kidnapping and murder cases with her. Aniah was very afraid of these things happening to her, so she always paid attention to her personal safety. She rarely wandered alone at night and certainly wouldn't stay out all night. Thinking this, Sarah grabbed her phone to check Aniah's location. But the location wasn't displaying, meaning Aniah's phone was probably turned off. That morning at 8 a.m., Aniah's mother, Angela, after dropping the kids at school, called Aniah. The mother and daughter usually called each other to say good morning, but this time, Aniah didn't answer. Angela thought her daughter might be busy and planned to call back later. At this point, Sarah called Aniah's part-time job. They said Aniah didn't come to work that morning. Aniah loved children and was dedicated to her babysitting job, never missing a day without notice. Sarah felt something was increasingly wrong. She drove around the streets looking for Aniah. After a few hours, there were no clues. Sarah thought this wasn't working, so she called Aniah's biological father, Elijah. Elijah heard Sarah say Aniah hadn't come home all night, and his heart sank immediately. He felt this was completely unlike his daughter's style. Elijah contacted Mother Angela. Soon after, the parents drove to Auburn. On the way, they considered all possibilities. Upon arrival, they tried every method, but still couldn't find Aniah. They reported the disappearance to the Auburn police. Police investigation. After receiving the report, the police sent investigators to Aniah's apartment. They found Aniah had left her dog at home. Her personal items were all there with no signs of packing for a trip. The police checked Aniah's phone location. It had been off since 11:47 p.m. on October 23. Aniah's last contact with Sarah was at 11:43, so the phone was turned off 4 minutes after the last message. The location turned off near the Chevron Hotel on South College Street. Sarah told the police that the last messages seemed strange. She suspected they weren't sent by Aniah herself. The police viewed surveillance footage from the Chevron gas station in Auburn. At 11:21 p.m., Aniah appeared, buying a bag of cream and onion potato chips and a drink. Mother Angela confirmed this was Aniah's habit. She liked snacking before bed. More than an hour later, a license plate recorder captured Aniah's car near the entrance to Interstate 85, leaving Auburn toward Montgomery. On October 25, one day after the disappearance, police found Aniah's car near an apartment building in Montgomery. The car was a 2017 black Honda CR-V. The tires were severely damaged, the passenger door had multiple scratches, and the passenger window had a bullet hole. Opening the door, they found a large amount of blood on the passenger seat and a shell casing in the cup holder. Blood tests confirmed it belonged to Aniah. From the scene and blood volume, Aniah was likely seriously injured, possibly life-threatening. Additionally, investigators smelled something like ammonia or Clorox cleaner. The vehicle may have been cleaned. The location where Aniah's Honda was found is in Montgomery, 88 kilometers from Auburn. The case quickly expanded the search area to multiple counties. A week after the disappearance, the FBI, Department of Homeland Security, and Alabama Department of Forensic Sciences joined the investigation. The Alabama governor approved a $5,000 reward for clues. The UFC president added $25,000. Afterward, anonymous individuals, mostly UFC members and supporters, donated, bringing the total reward to $105,000. In Homewood, the community where Aniah grew up as a child, everyone prayed for Aniah's safe return. The streets were adorned with beautiful ribbons and bows, all in Aniah's favorite colors. Aniah's family organized volunteers to search for her. They traversed various woods and alleys but found nothing. Aniah's stepfather, Walt, canceled all upcoming fights. He drove into remote areas to search, holding photos and asking door to door if anyone had seen Aniah. Walt recalled that night when Aniah visited him in Birmingham. Walt said he had a bad intuition at the time and felt he should have made her stay. He felt very regretful for this. Walt said that now the only thing he wanted to do was find Aniah. Key discovery and suspect. The police repeatedly reviewed the gas station surveillance footage and made a major discovery. After Aniah appeared in the store, a suspicious man kept secretly staring at Aniah. Notably, at 11:22 p.m., while Aniah was still in the store, this suspicious man bought a small pack of cigars and then disappeared. Thanks to the high clarity of modern surveillance equipment, the police successfully identified the suspect, Ibrahim Yazid, 29 years old, residing in Montgomery.
Investigations showed Yazid had a spotted criminal record with many offenses. He had assaulted two men in a Montgomery hotel, one of whom was a 77-year-old elderly man. When police arrived, the elderly man was on the brink of death.
In 2012, Yazid attempted to ram two police officers with his car and was taken to court. In December 2018, a murder occurred in Montgomery. A man died, and a woman's face was swollen from beating. Yazid was charged as the perpetrator in this murder case. At the time, Yazid had just been released on bail. He was staying in a hotel near the Chevron gas station.
Another surveillance camera captured Yazid getting out of Aniah's passenger seat and then returning to the car shortly after. An eyewitness said they had seen Yazid forcing Aniah into the car. At the time, this eyewitness told his companion, but the companion advised him not to meddle, so the eyewitness didn't call the police or take other measures.
DNA testing of Yazid matched the DNA extracted from Aniah's car. Subsequently, police arrested suspect Ibrahim Yazid, who was then held in Lee County Jail. He would be charged with first-degree kidnapping. Later, Yazid's lawyer filed legal documents claiming Yazid was facing death threats, so Yazid was moved to solitary confinement. Based on clues, police found a 35-year-old man named Antoine Fisher, suspected of helping destroy evidence and providing transportation for Yazid. Subsequently, police arrested Fisher. Discovery of the body and upgraded charges. On November 25, 1 month after the disappearance, police found a body in the woods beside Highway 2 in Macon County, Alabama. There was a bullet hole in the skull. Nearby, they found the clothes Aniah wore that day. The district attorney showed Aniah's parents a photo of a boot from the scene. They said the bear paw boots were a gift Walt gave Aniah when the family went to New York. 2 days later, police confirmed the body found in the woods was Aniah. The presumed cause of death was a gunshot wound to the head. Investigators believed the suspect, Yazid, fired when Aniah attempted to escape. Thus, the first-degree kidnapping charge against Yazid was upgraded to first-degree murder. Specifically, the grand jury indicted Aniah on 3 counts of capital murder: murder during kidnapping, murder during robbery, and murder involving the victim. The other suspect arrested by police, Fisher, said he was Yazid's friend. On October 24, 2019, the day Aniah was reported missing, around 5 to 6 a.m., Yazid went to a friend's house. That day, Fisher was also at that friend's house. Fisher saw Aniah's car parked outside. Yazid claimed the car needed some gas. So Fisher and Yazid went to the gas station. They added some gasoline and returned to the friend's house. Afterward, Yazid drove Aniah's car to near an apartment building. Fisher drove his own car following behind. Yazid left Aniah's car there, then Fisher drove Yazid back to the friend's house. Later, Yazid said he needed Fisher to drive him to pick up something. So Fisher drove his own car, carrying Yazid along Interstate 85 north toward Shortertown. Then they stopped in Montgomery. Yazid went to get the item. When Yazid returned and put the item in the back of the car, Fisher heard a bang like something falling. Yazid told Fisher it was an assault rifle.
Afterward, because Fisher had taken medicine before driving and was feeling drowsy, driving unsteadily, so Yazid took over driving. The two exited Interstate 85 and went to a church near a cemetery. Yazid got out to get the item from the back. Fisher saw through the rearview mirror Yazid dragging what looked like two legs, wrapped in a bedsheet, then entered the woods. Yazid stayed in the woods for a long time before returning to the car. Obviously, at this point, Fisher had guessed what it was. He stared straight at Yazid. Yazid said, "This won't affect you and your family." Afterward, they drove back to the friend's house. Not long after, Yazid left. Because Fisher was willing to testify, the district attorney stated that under Alabama law, Fisher's actions were not severe enough to count as an accomplice. Therefore, the charges against him were dropped. In addition, police found an eyewitness who said he had seen Yazid appear in Montgomery, wearing shorts with a gun tucked in the shorts. In response, Yazid argued at the hearing, "I have the right to do that. You don't have video or audio of me shooting, so I want to see how you plan to convict me using hearsay." Case status and legacy. Due to the suspect involving multiple charges, the case has not entered the formal trial phase. According to the latest update as of November 2025, the status hearing was postponed due to the defense's request. The official trial date is scheduled for March 2nd, 2026 in Tuskegee, Alabama, with jury selection starting then. The judge limited media contact in September 2025. In June 2025, Yazid pleaded not guilty and claimed his rights were violated, but the judge pushed the case forward. The new Speedy Trial Act was used to accelerate the process. Currently, Yazid remains detained without bail. Alabama has the death penalty, and prosecutors are considering it. One day, Aniah's stepfather, Walt, dreamed of Aniah. Aniah was sitting in the living room with a beam of light shining on her. Aniah opened her arms and hugged Walt. Just like that, Walt felt his vitality restored. He scheduled his next fight for October 24, 2020, the one-year anniversary of Aniah's tragedy. Walt flew to Abu Dhabi, where he spent 2 weeks in hotel quarantine while training. Angela stayed home and held a family prayer the night before Walt's fight to commemorate the last time the family saw Aniah. After the fight that day, Walt returned home. He collapsed on the floor, crying, releasing all the suppressed emotions from that time. After experiencing this pain, Aniah's mother, Angela, established a nonprofit organization called Aniah's Heart. The organization teaches people how to ensure their own safety and helps search for missing persons. On November 7, 2020, Aniah's family held a funeral for Aniah. Notably, after the Aniah case occurred, Alabama began promoting a bill. The bill can improve Alabama's bail system. Its main content is: defendants in Alabama have the right to bail, but suspects in major criminal cases are excluded. The prosecution has the right to request a hearing on bail, at which time the judge will decide whether the suspect is granted bail. Aniah's family and the bill's legislators strongly supported the advancement of this bill.
In February 2020, the Alabama House of Representatives passed the bill unanimously with 104 votes to 0 and named it Aniah's Law.